It's a globally recognized name,
Aflac!
synonymous with health insurance, and a dividend darling for investors, returning over 15,000%, including reinvested cash dividends to shareholders for 41 consecutive years. CEO Dan Amos has navigated risk to become one of the longest-serving CEOs in the Fortune 500, leading one of the largest insurance companies in the US by market cap.
This is my 34th year as CEO, and I've said I believe we'll see more changes in the next 3 years than in my last 30.
While the company's total annual revenue has been on the decline since 2019, Aflac kicked off 2024 with Q1 earnings and revenue beating Wall Street expectations. Yahoo Finance visited Amos in Columbus, Georgia to hear how he navigates risk in today's challenging sales environment, the potential for AI to disrupt the industry, and changing demographics in their largest market, Japan. Amos says 3 principles have guided him through the risky health insurance business.
Don't risk a lot for a little, don't risk more than you can afford to lose, and consider the odds.
And he's leaned on those principles as the insurance industry evolved from endless paperwork to apps to now generative AI. AI models have sped up data analysis, allowed claims to be processed faster, which have led to increased savings for companies like Aflac. But for Amos, it's not just about the bottom line.
When you have a technology like generative AI in a business like yours, I know the 3 risk principles.
Right.
How does that apply with something that we still really don't know really the limits of it at this point?
What I generally say about running an organization is there's a herd mentality, and you can be at the head of the herd or the back of the herd. But if you get way outside the herd, you can get shot. We want to be the head of the herd, but we can't overspend to the point that we can't validate. So technology plays an important role in our company and what we do going forward.
But not one that will replace what Amos sees as one of Aflac's core assets, its people.
I think there'll be hybrid. We have what we call wellness benefits. So we encourage you to go to a doctor and get checkups. You can do that through AI, that you don't need to talk to anybody. You just went to see the doctor said you're fine, and we need to pay the bill. I think the human touch is something that is very important for the growth of the company, because all we sell is a promise on a piece of paper. That's all it is.
The COVID-19 pandemic was a wake-up call for Aflac to reinvent a customer service model that relied on agents on site for that human touch. This accelerated the One Digital Aflac strategy to create the hybrid digitized model Aflac uses today. Another unintended consequence of the pandemic, advancements from COVID mRNA vaccines that Amos believes could soon lead to other potential treatments, including cancer therapies.
I don't know of anybody that's more excited about our future than I am and what I see ahead, because people through healthcare are finding cures, and these cures cost money. And so you need the additional coverage to help cover those costs.
In something like supplemental insurance where it's an addition, how do you manage sales like that when people are already like, I can barely afford to cover my bills?
Well, my question is, can you afford, if the bills come in that are the healthcare bills? You know, somebody asked me one time, you pay the claim so fast, why does it matter? And I said, it really doesn't. And there was this shock, and he said, unless you need the money.
When you think of supplemental insurance, you think
Aflac!
an acronym of American Family Life Assurance Company of Columbus, an arguably risky advertising campaign that cost more than Aflac had ever spent and catapulted the company's brand recognition from 11% to 94% over 14 years, according to Aflac, making Aflac a household name, redefining the insurance ad landscape. It started with 2 advertising creatives on a park bench, later immortalized in the first commercial, which aired January 1st, 2000.
Aflac.
And they heard the duck quacking, and they heard quack, quack, Aflac. They said, that sounds like they're saying the name. Not only was it humorous, but you were making fun of your name. And I said, we'll absolutely do it. We'll try it. But if it fails, going back to my 3 principles of risk management and insurance, we'll pull it immediately. The likability went through the roof afterward. And so in a matter of 3 years, we doubled our sales in the United States.
Aflac now spends roughly $150 million on advertising, while S&P Global Market Intelligence finds other insurance spend an average of $1 billion annually.
The Aflac duck is the golden goose. This is the top floor, but the main boardroom is straight ahead.
The Amos brothers, with principal founder John, co-founders William and Paul, Dan's father, founded the company in 1955. With the passing of his uncle John, Dan stepped up in 1990 as CEO.
I think it's clear that this is part of the American dream. 3 brothers with no money got together and were able to form an insurance company selling stock door to door is nothing more than an American dream.
The importance of family is evident across the company.
Telling people that we don't expect our company to come first. We expect your family to come first.
So about how many people are in this building?
Despite other U.S. companies outsourcing call centers, Amos has doubled down on keeping Aflac customers connected close to home, allowing for regular one-on-one interactions with his employees, who Amos says are the heart and soul of Aflac.
From an administrative perspective, our most talented, important people are the call center because they're the line between the company and the customer, or the agent and the company. And so it's very important that we have positive attitudes, help them do whatever we need to do to make sure it works.
So what we're trying to do is verify whether he was transported via ambulance.
And so a lot of people don't know about Aflac's history with cancer insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you decide to go that path?
Well, my grandfather was diagnosed with cancer, and we saw the high hospital bills and what took place, and they decided to develop a policy that was to help cover the cost of cancer. That's what they did in the 50s, and it just grew and grew and grew. And in Japan, they thought they had an epidemic of cancer taking place. After the war, people only lived to about 58, and today they live in their 80s. So they saw a skyrocketing number of claims, but they were just living long enough. So cancer is a disease of age.
The Amos family's experience with cancer has made them hyper-aware of routing cancer claimants to a friendly voice at the other end of the line.
Well, our cancer or claims department is much more sensitive to that, especially the newly diagnosed. They're overwhelmed as a general rule with what to do. And so they help walk them through a process that takes care of them through the filing of the claim and whatever they need to do. And our people have numbers, and you can call them back if you need to on certain issues. So goes claims, so goes your company.
While Aflac is a made-in-America story, its biggest market is Japan, where the company says it insures 1 out of 4 households.
It all started with our CEO, who was my uncle, who went to Osaka to the World's Fair and saw a thriving economy, and he noticed people wearing surgical masks. People said, well, that's because they don't want to spread a cold. And he went, anybody will do that will buy insurance. I'm going to get licensed there.
In 1974, Aflac began selling insurance in Japan.
So we came out with a life insurance policy that paid X amount for death, any reason, but it paid 10 times that amount if you had cancer, plus it made so much a day for every day you're in the hospital. And so that's what kind of took off and built our company over a period of time.
But now Aflac is facing a country with a demographic squeeze at both ends. By the year 2050, the United Nations predicts the share of China and Korea's 65 and older population will overtake Japan's, where its aging population is dying off. This, coupled with a declining birth rate, presents a dilemma for Aflac. Aflac's solution, says Amos, is its hybrid policy, a combination of cancer insurance and life insurance to attract younger consumers earlier so they avoid financial hardships later, part of a series of sales campaigns to coincide with Aflac's 50th anniversary of doing business in Japan. Reliance on Japan as Aflac's biggest market also comes with geographical risk, something Amos says he still worries about after the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami of 2011. It claimed more than 18,000 lives and caused major damage to the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power station. Comparisons were being drawn with the 1986 Chernobyl nuclear power plant disaster. Both incidents were rated the highest on the International Nuclear and Radiological Event Scale. Considering the odds, Amos assessed the risk fallout for the region and shareholders.
When they had the incidents in Chernobyl, we had paid outside consultants to review what the death rate was and what happened over those 20 years. And so I knew that if I did not respond one way or another, the stock was going to tank. And 15 years later, we haven't seen a problem.
Like his principles on risk, Amos shares a strong commitment to corporate social responsibility, which includes DEI, seen by Amos as just the right thing to do with qualified candidates.
I'd start by saying women have played an important role since the inception of the company in the U.S. So I didn't understand why Japan had not promoted any women. And I said, I want a woman promoted. You choose them. Tell me who it is.
After 2 years, they came back and said they didn't want to and didn't think it was a good idea.
I knew I was about to get the list of officer promotions, and I went and got a red magic marker, and I wrote as big as I could, rejected. And I sent it back to them, and I said, I don't know how culture works over here, but I know one thing. We're not going to promote a single male till I get a female. And so God touched them that night, and they came back and they said, here's the person.
And after 16 years working at Aflac as a sales representative and later managing the training department, Miki Yumoto became Aflac Japan's first female executive as Vice President of Human Resources in 1997. 20 minutes from Aflac headquarters is a place near and dear to Amos, Soma Farms, Amos spelled backwards. Built to host his Japanese guests and where Amos gets to do what he loves most.
Got first bite, got one.
As the company approaches its 70th anniversary, 72-year-old Amos considers what the next 70 years will look like for his successor.
How do you view succession, and what would you like the next future CEO to take on?
Well, remember, 34 years ago, that same question was asked until John passed away. He was the company. And so the transition will continue. And it's my responsibility to train someone, which I'm working on now, that'll have the heart and soul for what we need to do. And I've got a couple that are in contention, and I think I've got someone that can do that. But you have to watch them and see. Believe it or not, one of the things I do is if somebody gets promoted and they stop talking to people on the elevator, they need to go.
That successor will also need to carry on Aflac's philanthropic efforts with pediatric cancer patients, a cause extremely important to Amos. In 1995, Amos was asked for a $25,000 donation from what was formerly Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. Amos said no, he had a bigger vision. A $3 million building naming for Aflac. This relationship blossomed into the Aflac Cancer Center at Children's Healthcare, the largest pediatric cancer center in America. And another duck was born, the My Special Aflac duck.
Someone brought the concept to us that we knew cancer patients, children, have very difficult time communicating what's going on in their life. If they're in pain, you'll hear them cry, but you don't know if they're nauseous. And we're talking about kids, under 2 even. So they had the idea, this particular company, that they could create an animatronic duck that would tell what was going wrong with them. And our thing was, well, that makes sense, but we only want to do it if we can have experts, not just the animatronic side of it, but we had doctors, healthcare specialists, we had psychologists, we had cancer patients tell us what they like about it.
Keeping the momentum going for Aflac's philanthropy, customers and investors is a balancing act Amos and his future successor will have to contend with. After 50 years with Aflac, Amos says risk is just part of the business.
I worry about all kinds of things, but not to the degree that I think it's pass-fail. We are global. We are no longer can say, well, we're here in Columbus, Georgia, and we don't have to worry about the rest of the world. I've got to worry about tsunamis in Japan. I worry about interest rates and what's going to happen in that regard. But am I frightened about them? No, we manage risk. That's what we do for a living is we're in the risk business. So I'm not nervous about it, but I worry about it all. And if I didn't, I wouldn't be a very good risk manager.